What are the challenges right now that you're seeing in getting people to embrace and adopt green building best practices and lead?
I've been doing this about 15, 16 years, and I really did start with those kind of premier projects. So I was kind of fortunate to have early adopters of LEED. What should we do? So I think in the simplest terms, it's not someone that asks, what do we have to do? What's the
Mm-hmm.
local mandate? I'm going to get fined. I'm going to get penalized. It's what should we do? And so I think those are the better clients for me and my consulting firm and our education
Sure.
company. Yeah, I mean, headwinds, my dad asked me this sometimes, Zach, is, hey, depending on who's in office, does that affect your green building companies, Charlie? And I said, well, so many of the mandates are now state and city and even just corporate sustainability mandates. So there's so much that's baked in. There's so much that's already like, we're gonna do it for these reasons, and now you have to do it. I live here in Atlanta, Georgia. Some of the small towns around Atlanta, if you're building a building over 25,000 feet, you have to do LEED or equal, right? That's nice to see even in a small town here in Georgia. So I think the headwinds for a while had been just not having the federal government always lined up with some of these carbon goals. I think coming out of the pandemic, a little bit, there was a shift in focus to healthy buildings, not just green buildings. What's the difference? That was a lot of people were asking. Green buildings are less impact on the environment. Healthy buildings, hey, what's my impact on the people inside of the building or the home or the school or the church day to day? Is this a healthy place to be? It's more about that personal kind of health and productivity than impact on the environment. That's the main difference here. We could
Yeah,
talk about
that's
it later.
interesting.
But yeah, I think the headwinds are, still needs to make good business sense if you're really going to make some big change. So we oftentimes have to calculate some paybacks or, hey, this is going to give you a market advantage, or it does line up with your corporate sustainability goals. Sometimes you got to remind a client that too. Here's where it helps with your other stakeholders. Even though we know it's right for the environment, sometimes this does have cost to it, and we have to show those paybacks. This still makes good business sense.
Yeah, so those economics, what's the number one driver of ROI or payback from an organizational lens? If we just put a pure financial lens on a green building decision, what are those economics?
So we get a work ending of existing buildings. Like I love going to New York City and greening up a 30-year-old, 40-year-old building. And so those ones, if it's deep retrofits, those could be a little bit longer paybacks. But even there, major energy saving projects, usually 2 to 4 year paybacks on a new construction
Wow.
lead project. On a new construction lead project, oftentimes it's only 1% premium for your lead and commissioning and energy modeling, just the things to really go for it. If you've baked in some green attributes, and then that payback can be 1 to 3 years, depending on the project size. So I'd say, so oftentimes these paybacks have gotten down to the 2 or 3 year mark. Now, I'm not talking about a very sophisticated system that's going to have longer paybacks, but just normal green building best practices. A lot of our clients won't even look at it unless it's a 2 year payback. So, picture a large office building that just hasn't changed out its toilets and urinals since the 1980s. If we go in and do a retrofit, next thing you know, you're going from 3.5 gallon this to 1.28 gallon toilet there. That's a very quick payback, sometimes
Wow.
less than 6 months, just in your water and your sewer savings. So I think the overall paybacks for the mainstream good green initiatives, man, they're pretty solid. Now, renewables can be a little longer. I'm in Georgia. If I put extra solar panels on my house, it could be a 7 year payback, maybe on my house. But I think that would be the exception with some of the renewable projects. Just normal, good green projects, pretty quick paybacks line by line.
That's really good. I mean, I'm thinking back to my engineering days at Whirlpool and big capital projects that we would do in product development. A 3 year payback was like a threshold. If you crossed, then it was a no go. But a 2 year payback was like green light, man. That's a project we would take all day. So I love that.